Well, I jokingly told my wife this morning, hey, look, the story about the lions at the Albuquerque Zoo getting relocated to Texas still made it above my story on the front page of the Albuquerque Journal. But yes, hey, there's a story on the front page of the Albuquerque Journal about me and my typewriter obsession and the upcoming Type-In tomorrow, March 11th, at the Special Collections Library. Hey, I made it on the front page of the paper, and I didn't have to do anything bad to get on the front page of the paper. Well, so the way this happened is I got an email from Ollie Reed, who is a reporter with the Albuquerque Journal. He's been on the local reporting scene for, probably 35 or 40 years. He said, I'd like to set up an interview about your typewriter collection and the upcoming Type-In. So he came over Thursday morning. In the meantime, the day before, which would have been Wednesday, I sent him a lengthy email with a lot of HTML links, basically giving him the whole background on the typewriter revival, the advent of typewriter blogs, social media, Richard Polt, the typewriter revolution, Ted Monk and the typewriter database, and just the whole kind of online world of typewriters and where they're at. So I figured if I gave him enough background information, it would help him make a better story, and I think it did, hopefully. So this is a fun little article, and it made the front page of the paper, which I'm very happy about. They had a photographer with them, and I had picked some of the typewriters to show during this interview specifically because I knew they would be photogenic. Like, for instance, the front cover shot of the IBM Selectric 721 next to the Colibri, right? And the blue 5TE electric Smith Corona. And of course, the photographer did clue into the idea that blue typewriters are rather photogenic, which I discovered a long time ago. It was fun watching Ollie's process at work. He came loaded with a series of questions, and that's, I guess, how he formulated the structure of his story. He wants to know the who, what, where, when, why, how kind of thing. So he was asking me, what's my background in typewriters? How did I get started? Why do people use typewriters? That kind of thing, right? So he used his questioning as a way of informing his story, just to fill out the backstory. And I thought it was a very good strategy. And of course, he was standing there furiously scribbling on his reporter's tablet, which I thought was pretty fun. And occasionally he would interrupt me or stop me and ask me to restate what I just said so he could quote me. But after he got done with all of his questions, then I had him sit down and try out all the typewriters. And he told me that he last used a manual typewriter professionally as a reporter maybe 40 years ago. And since then, he's been using electric machines and then computers. Yeah, he did obviously get along pretty well with the Selectric and the 5TE Type Bar Electric. And I think as far as the manuals, the Hermes 3000 and the KMM, the Royal KMM, worked pretty well for him with, hands that aren't strong enough, don't have the muscles for, manual typing as they need to be just through training, right, and practice. So it was a fun experience having him at my house and the photographer as well. Typewriters are obviously not just mechanical devices, but they have a lot of history to them. So it was fun. On my island in my kitchen, I set up the Selectric along with 3 of the German typewriters, the Olympia SM3 and the Optima Super, and then the Groma Colibri. So those 3 German typewriters have an interesting kind of Venn diagram overlap, because you have the Olympia and the Optima were both competing from the legacy of the old Olympia factory pre-war in East Germany, right? So Olympia moved to West Germany, and then you had that international court ruling in the early 50s that said both companies could continue to market typewriters under their own names. So you had this East Germany, West Germany thing. And then you have both East German typewriters, the Colibri and the Optima, as another way of looking at it, right? So it was kind of a fun little thing. I had my Corona 3, which mine's from 1929, but I explained to him that the Corona 3s were used in the trenches of World War I because it was probably one of the only small portable typewriters that was in high volume production at the time. So it was a logical choice to use as a mechanical writing device in the war. So there's a lot of history to typewriters. So once I figured out what typewriters I was going to set up in my kitchen and dining room, I set them up the night before and was very meticulous about getting, the typing paper set up in each one and the margin set up. And I guess I should show you my typing paper. Let's see. So I was creating a kind of a letterhead typing paper for our type-in that's going to be tomorrow. And a lot of the past type-ins, we've just used, a stack of printer paper, copy paper, but I noticed a lot of paper gets wasted. People type 1 or 2 lines on a full-size, letter-size sheet of paper. It gets wasted. So the last few years, what I've done is I've cut half-size, cut these in half, made half-size sheets. And so what I have now is this kind of funky little Albuquerque Typewriter Society logo and a little type and write with a typewriter logo. And it's a fun little thing to do on the computer. And so I had all those threaded up in the machines. And for the type-in, I've printed these in different colors, paper for people to use, right? So I had those threaded up in the machines. I had the margins all set. There's a whole nother side or aspect of having a reporter come to your house, especially when your wife is a very neat freak person. And of course, she's very much worried about making the house look like it's not lived in, like it's an Architectural Digest photo shoot. So we had to straighten up, and it was pretty funny. She was like, "We can't have any cooking odors in the kitchen for breakfast, so we're going to go out we'll get some breakfast burritos from Golden Pride, which is a local place near us that has really good breakfast burritos." So it was like prepping the house for the photographer and for the reporter, which is pretty funny. And that's always, kind of a self-conscious thing when you're going to be interviewed for something. You have to, worry about, is my hair just right? Luckily, my grandson is a barber, by the way, and he says, "Grandpa," it was like the day before, "Grandpa, we need to get you a haircut, a trim for your interview." So thanks, Noah. I appreciate it. So this is the Friday morning edition of the paper, and a lot of times they'll put out stories in the Friday morning paper that relate to the weekend or events happening in the weekend, and this is one of these classic examples, right? So there's this event happening tomorrow, Saturday, March 11th, at the Special Collections Library, and of course they do an interview of me and have a little bit of mention of the type-in. So I think it's a great way that they can kind of publicize these local community events and make a story out of it. And I thought it was very cool getting a front page headline. And my head is above the front centerfold. Look at that. Above the front centerfold. But, the problem is, of course, that my head is getting bigger now. The ego, I can hardly keep my head up. It's starting to lean over and fall over. Come on, Joe. Don't get a big head over it. Well, I have all the typewriters set up in a spare bedroom that I want to be taking to the type-in. Let's see, what do we have? Well, we have Hermes, Remington, Royal, Smith Corona, Smith Corona, Smith Corona, Smith Corona, I see a lot of them, Corona, Hermes 10, Royal Mercury, Splendid 33, under that is the Corona 3, Olympia Reporter, another Smith Corona, Hermes, Olympia, Optima, Hermes, Smith Corona, and Underwood. Well, this isn't my first rodeo, as they say, or at least not my first type-in. I haven't really gone to a rodeo. Every time I do this, there's always a little bit of tension. There's a little bit of stress, hoping everything goes off well. And the planning process, I kind of go off a checklist in my mind because I've done it enough. But, I first start with what typewriters am I going to be bringing to the event? So I'm making a list. Whenever I think of something, I put it on my list. So things like, I'm going to bring 2 extension cords and 2 plug strips, with the idea that I'll maybe split the electric typewriters to 2 different tables. And so then typing paper, which we have our new logo typing paper logo for the event, and this is actually some test typings that Ollie Reed, the reporter for the Albuquerque Journal, was using on my machines. I want to bring some correction tape so people can use it. Also, I was thinking about the idea of, letter writing is kind of a parallel thing that people can do with typewriters. So I've set up a letter writing station for people to use, envelope. So I need a clipboard for a sign-up sheet, some pens, of course, typing paper. I have this old typewriter poster on an easel, and maybe we can drag that out and use it for this event as well. I'm going to bring some spare typewriter ribbons and also my ribbon Baco ribbon kit, and I'm going to bring the eyelet crimper kit, and I'm going to probably create a little flyer about our little group here in Albuquerque, our typewriter group. So yeah, this is kind of the stream of consciousness kind of checklist that I go through every time I do one of these events. So another thing I think I'll bring is my little inventory lookbook of my entire typewriter collection. People might ask questions about a machine that I don't have, and maybe I can at least pull up a picture or look at a date or a type sample or whatever. Yeah, it's small. I'll throw it in the box with all the other stuff I'm bringing. Well, I just finished designing and printing out a bunch of these little handouts, just basically telling people about our little typewriter group, the Albuquerque Typewriter Society. Okay, so I got handouts. We have typing paper to hand out. I got a list going on here of things to do, and I'm working the list. Well, it is getting on toward Friday evening, and I've been working all afternoon at little items on my list to complete, and I'm pretty much done, I think, with all the preparations. So I'm just going to have a relaxing evening, and tomorrow is going to be the big day, the big type-in at the Special Collections Library in downtown Albuquerque. If you guys are in the area, I hope to see you. And until next time, stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.